because compassionate communication can change your life. So what is compassionate communication? Well, first of all, I'm going to show you this because I love this picture. It's a person at the top of the mountain saying they are exactly where they need to be at this time. So I don't think it's any coincidence that you're here. And I don't think it's any coincidence that there's a relationship right now that might be causing you some stress. It might be with your partner. It might be with your parents or your children or a coworker or a friend. It might even be some of the conversation you're having with yourself about what you're not doing or should be doing. So relating with compassionate communication has 4 parts to it. And one part is connect to your best self. And we've been talking about self this week, and I'm going to be talking about it later. Oh, hi, Linda. I love you too. I'm so glad you're here. And I'm going to invite, if anyone's tuning in, please say hi. Please let me know where you're from. And please ask me a question, because I have certain things I want to share with you, but I want this to be interactive. I want to be here live so that if you're having challenges, or if you just want to learn more, or if you want to ask a general question for the group, it just offers me a trajectory to communicate with you about what's important for you. Not what I want to share, but what you want to hear. Okay, so please write in the comments, and if you want to, while we're talking, just share this video, because together we can offer more love, compassion, acceptance, and forgiveness, not only to our own hearts and the hearts of the people we love, but we can share these skills with others. So please share. Laura, so good to see you. Well, thank you. She says she worked with me in the past and I taught her amazing things. Well, you taught me amazing things too. Because I've had, as a therapist and a mediator, I've worked with over 25 years. I've worked with actually probably by now thousands of individuals and couples, and each one has been a gift. Because in working with them and having them share their hearts, their humanity, their pain, their triumphs, I sit there and just wonder in awe about the ability that we each have within us to do our own healing. And my job is just to remind you of that. And that's what this video is about. That's what compassionate communication is about. Compassionate mediation works with couples in conflict and reminds them of the same. So in compassionate communication, the 4 tenets are: connect to your best self, and we'll talk about that. Let go of your limiting beliefs, and we'll talk about those. And unburden pain from your past, which is hard to do. And then also relate from your heart. And that's where the magic happens. Oh, thank you, Laura. She said I was a cat. Well, I'll actually show that, because we're all catalysts to healing. Each of us. And each of us heals our lives, and then we turn around and we offer our hand and our heart to someone else. So that's what I'm hoping you'll do, that you'll look at wherever you are right now, or whatever you're struggling with, whatever relationship you're struggling with, and know that you're here at exactly the right place where you need to be. You're here because you're here to learn what you need to learn about yourself to heal something from your past. So ask me any questions. If there's anybody struggling with a relationship and you feel safe just putting it in the comments, I'll tailor this to your situation. In other words, if it's a friend, a relative, a spouse, an ex-spouse, I'll speak to that. Okay, but first I'll share a story. Okay, true confessions. I have been teaching compassionate communication and doing my best to practice it for a lifetime. It's based on internal family systems, on the concept that we have a healthy self, and when we're in self, we're calm, clear, and compassionate. I actually had a handout that I gave yesterday. So when we're in self, we're calm, clear, and compassionate. You know those moments? We're not always in self. However, we exile certain parts of ourselves and push them aside because in childhood, they weren't safe to speak of. So we didn't speak about our sadness or our hurt or our pain. Some of us exiled our anger. But there's ways we pushed them aside and went out in the world and we learned how to manage. And as we're managing, we recognize that we still feel some of that pain. So we're trying to be nice or pleasing or caretaking. We're trying to act like, put on a pseudo self, act like we're calm, clear, and compassionate. But then something triggers us, and those X-styles flood us, and the managers can't protect us. And out comes some kind of behavior that protects us. So we get mad at somebody, or we go off and do some behaviors that numb us. So I want to share a story of how I was triggered yesterday and didn't speak from my higher self, but spoke from the part of me that was angry, and I'm sorry. I'm not going to name my loved one who got the, hello, Deborah. Addiction problems. Okay, great. Thank you for sharing. We're talking about addiction, compassionate, overeating. We could be talking about me too. So we're going to cover all of those today. And I'll just share a brief story that yesterday, a friend of mine, DJ Henninger, colleague, coach, livecoachdj.com, said on one of her videos recently that expectations are premeditated resentments. Isn't that good? Expectations are premeditated resentments. So the story I'm sharing, which I'll be brief, is that I had an expectation about somebody very close to me, and that expectation, unfortunately, was dashed. So as I tried to share how I felt, I noticed that my tone, what I was saying, was so not in self. Have you ever been there? Have you ever been in the middle of an argument with someone or a discussion with someone, and you see yourself and you hear yourself and you just wish you could reboot and start over, but you're just on this trajectory that just sounds terrible? Well, that was me yesterday. Fortunately, because I have done this work, I was able to call back right away and at least apologize for not being in self, and let her know that I would take care of my own parts, the ones that were hurt or feeling neglected, and that what I would do would be at least to apologize for inflicting that energy on her. But at the same time, I would then take a look at where the pain was for me. So the other thing we did is, and this is what I talked about earlier this week, I'm going to find the slide that reminds me so I can tell you about it, is that we practiced witnessing awareness. We practiced, and I don't know where that slide is. Anyway, I wanted to give it to you in visual format. But let's pretend that we're coming from our higher self. We're coming from our spirit, our soul, our deepest wisdom. And we know, hi, Dean. Oh, I'm glad this is helpful info. Thank you. Well, it's going to get even more helpful because I'm sure you've been where I was, and I'm a coach on this. So if I get there, you get there, we all get there. We're all human. Okay, we're all human. We're spiritual beings that have human experiences. And when we're in a human experience, we have some expectations. Our egos have agendas. We know what we think we want. And when someone doesn't give it to us, we get hurt. But instead of speaking about hurt, because we don't do that as often as we should, we try to manage by pretending it's cool. And then we act out. Okay, but knowing that there is this higher self, there is a place to witness all those parts of us that need healing and speak for them instead of from them. So I was able, in not too short a time, to be able to come back and say, you know, I'm sorry I was angry, but I'm sure I was hurt because I was disappointed, and I'll take care of my disappointment. And this beloved one of mine was able to say, well, I'm sorry too, because I hear what you say and I'll try harder too. And in that field of compassion, where at any time you can witness with awareness how you're being, you can forgive yourself first. We're human, okay? We're human. Forgive yourself first, and then consider forgiving the other person because they're doing the best they can. They're not there to meet all your needs or take care of every feeling you have. And then start over. And all week I've been talking about starting over. And I usually use the first time I told you that my children and I used to do this when they were teens, where they'd come to me in the middle of a fight, which wasn't often, but when it happened, they'd come to me and even mid-cry, like, can we start over? And the answer was always yes. And it's yes because we don't need to go back. We don't need to go back and rehash why I was feeling the way I did, or why I said what I said, or whether I was right or wrong. It doesn't matter. What matters is that we have a heart-to-heart connection where we can meet in the middle and resolve our differences that way. And that's what I'd love to share with you. So compassionate communication means to be in your best self. So whether right now you want a better relationship with someone in your life, your children, your parents, your friends, your spouse, and even your ex-spouse. And the cool thing about compassionate communication is it doesn't really require that you talk to the other person. It helps when you do from your best self. But what compassionate communication does is as you connect to this highest version of yourself, this calm, clear, compassionate, courageous, confident, creative you that's there. And then you let go of the limiting beliefs, the beliefs that your spouse should meet your needs, the beliefs that your children should be at every event you think they should be at, the beliefs that your parents should be different than they are, the beliefs that the coworkers should treat you better. When, oh, thank you. We've got a future IFS clinician. Darren Young is going to be a future IFS clinician. We're going to look her up on selfleadership.org sometime soon. And she's inviting her colleagues to watch. And I'm inviting you to invite people to watch because I'm sitting right now in my office in Deerfield. And aside from the education that I've had or the personal experience that I've had as a mother, grandmother, wife, ex-wife, whatever my roles have been, most of all, I am a 70-year-old grandmother who's talking to you wherever you are, sharing compassionate communication so that we can create better relationships. And as I've said before, even though my family thinks I'm crazy, and I might be, there's something about knowing that you're out there and that you're listening and that we're communicating and that we're sharing and we're co-creating a kinder world. We really are. One person at a time, one relationship at a time, one interaction at a time. So do I need to go back and heal that inner child in me? And I brought my inner child pillow. I've got an inner child. We all do. You do too. And something in the interaction yesterday triggered that inner child in me. And instead of speaking for her and telling this person I love dearly how sad I was about something, instead, I tried to manage. This is my manager part. Okay, that's my pseudo self. That's when I was 40, I'm 70 now. So even then I was trying to pretend everything was okay. I didn't have to get mad. Nice people don't get mad. However, when your boundaries are violated, sometimes you get angry, but you don't have to speak for your anger. You can speak from your anger. Nope, other way around. Sorry, reverse that. You don't have to speak from your anger. I don't have to get enraged. Not that I got enraged, I just got a little PO. You don't have to get judgmental or sarcastic or blaming or angry or protective. You don't have to do that. You don't have to blend with the part of you that thinks it has to defend you. Instead, you ask that part to relax a little bit. You tell that angry part, calm down, I got this. For my higher self, I'm going to speak for that part of me that's sad or scared or hurt. And in speaking for that part of me that's sad, and I can even speak for the part of me that's angry. I can even say, you know, this situation is making me mad a little bit. But the reason I'm mad is because really I'm hurt and I'm sad and I'll take care of it. And I'm sorry that I kind of threw that all on you because I didn't mean to and it wasn't nice. And she forgave me and I forgave her. And next time, and the thing is we're probably both right. You know, if we're going into our heads and we're looking at our expectations, we both have a right to our expectations. However, it's not anybody else's problem to fulfill all of our expectations. That's our job. It's an inside job. And we do it by taking care of ourselves. We be our best self by loving ourselves and loving all of our parts. You know, I could do a big guilt trip on myself about how I acted and what she'll think and all the rest of that. But look, I'm human. I'm a pretty good teacher and I'm a pretty good therapist and I'm a pretty good mom and friend, but I'm human and I'm going to make mistakes. So forgiving myself, which takes time, because all your perfectionist parts get in the way. You know, instead of forgiving yourself, try to justify. Well, I did it because, and if she hadn't, then I wouldn't have. And this is what I really meant, and yada, yada, yada. But no, just forgive yourself. Crossed a boundary. You did it in a way that wasn't in self. Just, it's okay. And you can be sorry. And I think the two phrases in the world that make the most impact on your life. One is thank you from your heart. And the other is to say, I'm sorry, to truly say it. And when I teach the miracle of empathy to my clients, I have a handout, and I'm going to put it on the Compassionate Communication community page. Because when you're learning how to be empathetic with someone, you listen to them, you understand them, and you truly empathize. And what that means is, if you're in a conflict with someone and you want to be understood, try understanding first. Even if the behavior that's coming at you is offensive on some way, even if the person that you're interacting with is extreme in some way, if you're looking from this higher self, if you're looking from this witnessing perspective, what you can do is understand that even though you're seeing their extreme behavior, they're defending themselves because they've tried to manage, and they can't manage the fact that underneath they're hurt. Their inner child, their little boy, their little girl inside is hurting, is scared. And if you can be the bigger person, even in a moment, if you can get to self, if there, as Dick Schwartz of Internal Family Systems says, if there's a critical mass of self, miracles happen. Because it shifts the energy between the two of you. You're not in that reactive fight or flight mode where one of you is triggering the other, and reactive and sarcastic and distancing and all that stuff that we do in relationships. Instead, take a deep breath here. Instead, we come from that peaceful place inside our heart. And when we do that, we have compassion for the inner child that's acting out. Even as we set a boundary, and we talked on the second day, someone asked about boundaries, even as we set a boundary that says you can't do that, we still can have compassion and get our tone and our energy and what we need to say back into that expansive version of ourselves rather than that contracted. So Rumi says, we're not just the drop in the ocean, we're the entire ocean in a drop. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. That's someone else's, Pierre Descartes. I can't remember his name. I'll post it in the group. Deepak Chopra used to say that too, and David Simon and David G. That we're skin encapsulated egos trapped in a body for the scan of a lifetime or something like that. But we are spiritual beings. We have the ability to relate from our best version of ourselves, to let go of the judgments, the shoulds that we put on ourselves and other people. And to unburden the pain from our past means we go group. And someone mentioned addiction. So I want to go back and talk about that. So let me take a breath. And I see that you're still here, and because compassionate mediation, which I'll get to in just a little bit, is really bringing all these tools: compassionate communication, being in your best self, let go of limiting beliefs, unburden pain from your past, relating from your heart, and creating a compassionate relationship with your partner, even if you think you want to leave. And I'd say even especially if you think you want to leave, because if you want to leave, you want to do it compassionately. But we'll talk about that later. Because Deborah had a question about addiction and overeating. I am a binge eater myself, so I know how that goes. And I have lived with addiction in my life of various sorts and various loved ones. And the first thing I'll tell anyone who's living with addiction of any kind is to get yourself to a support group. Get yourself to AA, get yourself to Al-Anon, Overeaters Anonymous, because the 12 steps of a 12-step program are really about compassionate communication. And the first step in any program is that you're powerless to change someone else. And whether you're dealing with an addict or just a loved one, you're powerless to change anyone else. And as I've said all week, as Wayne Dyer says, when you change the way you look at something, what you look at changes. So if you're looking from a blaming or judgmental or holier than thou or hypervigilant part of you, then you're going to see a lot of problems. But if you're looking from your higher self, you'll recognize that we're two individuated beings who are here for whatever reason we're here. And we each have our soul's journey. And the person who's addicted has their soul's journey. And the first step in your recovery, in your healing, in your inner peace, is knowing step one, you can't change that person. You can only change how you're being with that person. And when you come from your best self, letting go of judgments, unburdening the pain that their behaviors caused, and relating from your heart, you have compassion, even as you set boundaries. And those are hard, but we can talk about those. You can go back to day 2. We talked all about boundaries. So step 1 is the powerlessness. Step 2 in a 12-step program is there is a higher power. And for some people, higher power is God. And for some people, higher power is just the people in the room, because you come in the room of a 12-step program and everybody in the room has some of the same problems that you do relating to someone who may be addicted to something. And just being in that energy of compassion, really, is healing. And so whether God sent those people to you, or God is working through you, or the universe, or higher power, or nature, or oneness, whatever you're using, there is that energy that's more than our minds, that's more than our judgments, that's more than our codependent need to fix, save, and rescue. So step 2 is to recognize there is a higher power, whatever it means to you. Step 3 means you turn your will over to the higher power, meaning in self parts. Then instead of trying to control it with your ego, your judgment, your blame, your good advice, your well intentions, you just recognize that there is this bigger field of energy, and you trust the self in the other person to figure it out. And then if you're religious, you pray a lot that they do, because it's really scary to love an addict. The 4th step, and this is really, really important. The 4th step is to take your own inventory. So what does it mean to take your own inventory? It means from that witnessing perspective of your higher self, you look at all the parts that you're showing up with. And this is in any relationship, not just with an addict. Just think about your partner, your spouse, your child, your parent, your coworker. How are you showing up? Are you showing up judgmental? Are you showing up withdrawn? Are you showing up hypervigilant? Are you showing up in a way that makes them look at you and see that there's judgment? And there was a comment. Thank you. Someone had to drop off. They couldn't hear me. I hope you can hear me. We're just going to be here for a few more minutes. And what we're going to do is continue to talk about how to have compassionate relationships with compassionate communication, and to finish the thoughts about the 12-step program. Then after you've taken your inventory and noticed the parts of you that you're speaking from, and speak for them instead, or ask them to calm down, you then can speak with compassion, begin to make a list of the people you've harmed, put yourself at the top of the list for all the ways you've shoulded on yourself, or judged yourself, or recriminated choices you've made. So forgive yourself. And then begin to make amends to the people that you've hurt, which I did yesterday. And I know I'm forgiven. And I forgave myself. So get to a 12-step program if you have someone that's addicted. And also, in terms of the binge eating, that's one of those extreme behaviors. Okay, when we're sad or scared and trying to manage, and we get exhausted, and we start to feel those feelings maybe late at night when we're finally not doing anything, and then we go to the freezer and look for whatever frozen Snickers are still there, or whatever you do. The part of you that's extreme is still trying to protect you. It's trying to numb you some way. Because when I would do that, I would feel bad about overeating, and I would then make a list of people that you've hurt. Thank you. And put yourself, I'm going to show what Darren said. Make a list of the people that you have hurt. Put yourself at the top of that list. Yes, Darren, you're going to make a great therapist. I'm sure you already are. It is a powerful statement because a lot of times we don't forgive someone else because we're afraid they're going to hurt us again. And when we've learned how to come from self, we trust ourselves enough to know that we won't react the same if they did. Does that make sense? So instead of how we used to react and fight back or get sarcastic or withdraw, when we're coming from our higher self, we speak for the part of us that's angry. We speak for the part of us that's trying to manage as best we can. And we speak even more clearly for that inner child that says, I'm hurting. I'm hurting. And then we go back and take care of that inner child, which we've already done because we've spoken for her. She's not exiled anymore. She doesn't have to be perfect. She doesn't have to figure out that it's not okay to have needs. It is okay to have needs. And we talked this week about asking and learning how to ask. And just a quick repeat, and then we're going to end for now. The 5 ways to get what you want to need are to learn what you want to need. And remember, because if you're codependent and you've taken care of everybody else, you forgot. So just remember what you want to need. Number 2 is know you deserve it. And that's really important because any limiting belief that says you don't or you're not good enough yet is something you can heal. Know you deserve it. The 3rd is learn how to ask. But if you know what you want, you know you deserve it, it's easier to ask. It's not a demand, it's not a whine, it's not anything entitled, it's just a request. The 4th is be willing to receive. And the 5th is to be grateful. So to get what you want in a relationship, know what it is that you want. Know you deserve it on some level. They might not be able to give it to you, but you deserve it. Ask that person for what you want and need. They can say yes or no. If they say yes, be willing to receive and be grateful. And if they say no, you can take care of your hurt parts. And sometimes you have to decide whether or not they say no too many times to make you think about leaving your relationship. So I want to talk a little bit about the compassionate mediation program that starts soon. Because all of these tools we're talking about, compassionate communication, compassionate relationship, are applicable when you're in a relationship that you're trying to make better. And tomorrow I'm going to share some of those stories with you about people who come to see me and it's 10 years after their communication has gone awry and they've had so many bad habits and they put so many walls up around their hearts and they've judged their partner for so long that they really think the only option is divorce. And when we learn compassionate communication and when they can process their feelings through the filter of calm, clear, connected, courageous, compassionate, higher self, they can create a whole new relationship with the partner they have. A whole new one, a better one. Or if they realize that they've grown apart and they've shared what they can and they've shared the best they can and they want to part ways, compassionate mediation gives them the skills to do that. So I've prepared a free gift for anyone, for you to share, for everyone to have. And it's based on 3 of the my favorite resources. One of them is the first chapter of my book on compassionate mediation. And in this chapter, which you can download, it's an immediate download, it talks all about self and parts. It talks how to get to self and be in self and stay in self and what questions to ask yourself and how to understand your partner better. So all of that is in the first chapter in the Compassionate Mediation Toolkit. There's also a relationship assessment. So as you take that assessment, you can find out what areas in your relationship need to be changed. Is it about your communication skills? Is it about your self-leadership? Is it about some old beliefs you have? And you'll get immediate feedback on that assessment as to what areas you can right now begin to change. The third part of the Compassionate Mediation Toolkit is access to my Compassionate Communication Masterclass, which is based on the webinar I gave on should I stay or should I go? 5 vital questions to help you know. And the reason that's there for you is because, again, it talks about how to be in self, how to communicate with someone with whom you're in conflict. There's a guided meditation on there about how to be in self. There's the 5 questions you need to ask yourself before you decide to leave. But in asking yourself those 5 questions, you may be able to not only stay, but create the relationship that you've always desired and deserved. So all of those are in the toolkit, the relationship assessment, the free chapter, the video series, and they all lead to, oh, you're so welcome, Deborah, thank you. And they all lead to my upcoming Compassionate Mediation Program. I'm just going to take a minute. We'll talk more about it in the next few days. The Compassionate Mediation Program starts in about 2 weeks. And I'm going to take a small group of people, so it will be very personalized, on an 8-week journey with me, where you are going to learn the skills of compassionate communication, compassionate relationship, where you're going to explore the options for change. So you're going to create a compassionate relationship. You're going to explore your options, whatever they are, understand your finances, and truly create the relationship that you desire and deserve. So if you have any questions about it, sign up for the toolkit or send a question to support@lindakroll.com. I'm going to be here Saturday and Sunday. And on Monday, I'm going to have a very special guest, Marcy Newman, the Heart Shift Coach. We're going to do a duet together on forgiveness. She has declared September as for the forgiveness month, or forgiveness of past and present lovers, especially. So it's going to be especially relevant to anybody who is in a relationship that could need some improvements or has been in a relationship. And by the way, compassionate mediation is something you can do alone. Compassionate communication is something you can do alone. Because when you shift your energy, everything else shifts around you. So please share this with anyone. Again, the Compassionate Mediation Program starts soon. If you sign up for this toolkit, you'll get information about how to join that program. And also, what I want you to see you do is create the relationship you desire and deserve. And after my little outburst yesterday, I know that what it did was not fracture the relationship, but give us a chance to start over and to build on not only what we've had all these years, but to build on our ability to love each other through our humanity, to really recognize the soul, the spirit, the divine light within. And I keep repeating, we are all channels of love and beacons of light. So you can bring your channel of love and your beacon of light to all those parts of you that need healing. You can bring that channel of light to the parts of you that are usually defending yourself in an argument. You can bring that love to the parts of you that act out or eat too much or get enraged or withdraw or shop too much, whatever you do. Because the more you fill up with love, the more loving you're going to be to yourself and everyone else. So together, we can change the face of divorce one heart at a time. But together, we can change the face of communication one heart at a time. And when we do that, and this is how I'm going to end, we can do this. So come back tomorrow, 12:30 Central, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then beyond. Please sign up for the toolkit. You'll be on my mailing list, and at least we can stay connected. And from my heart to yours, remember that love is always the answer, but it starts with loving yourself. And as you love yourself, you just implode with that light, and then you can share it with others. So I'm sending a lot of love to the person that I was talking about from yesterday, and I'm sending a lot of love to all of you and reminding you see you tomorrow. Bye-bye for now. I hope you had fun. Love you guys. See ya. Bye-bye. Thanks, Karen. We gotta laugh through it, right? If we're not having fun. Okay. Talk to you soon. Bye for now. See ya. Too cute. Thanks. Too nuts too, but that's enough. Love you guys. Bye.